calling the regular council meeting of April the 24th, 2017 to order. And as usual, I'll ask everyone to please join us in a brief moment of reflection. Thank you. You may be seated. I'll begin by asking Deputy Mayor Henderson if there are any additions to the agenda.
Yes, Gil Brockenier, or Mayor. There is a Mayor Brockenier, I apologize. Must be that 7-Up. A memo from the Municipal Clerk Manager of Legislative Services regarding the 2018 municipal elections for the use of alternative voting methods and internet and telephone, and the 2018 Town of Coburg School Board and municipal elections, and to retain IntelliVote Systems, Inc. to provide internet and telephone electronic voting services for the 2018 municipal election. The action recommended that the matter be added to the agenda.
Okay. Seconder, Councillor Segay. Any discussion? All in favor? Is carried. Are there any declarations of interest from members of council? There are not any tonight, Ms. Brace. We can proceed.
Yes, Your Worship. We have the adoption of the minutes of the previous meeting.
Deputy Mayor Henderson.
The action recommended that council adopt the minutes of the regular meeting council held on April the 3rd, 2017.
Okay. Seconder, Councillor Rowden. Discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, at this time we have Ted Amsden, Coburg's Poet Laureate, to recite a poem in recognition of April's National Poetry Month and the 2017 Poetry City Challenge, and I believe we have a number of special guests with us as well.
Okay, well, welcome, Ted.
Hello, Mayor.
It's a great way for us to kick off National Poetry Month by having our Poet Laureate here, and I understand that you've got a group of aspiring Ted Amsdens along with you tonight, so we're all looking very much forward to that.
Don't smear them with my name. I don't think they're budding. I think they're doing quite well as poets. This is National Poetry Month, as you know, and poetry makes us better people, and it gives us pause to reflect. It introduces us to new ways of looking at the world. It is difficult for some people, and for other people, it is a solace. The New York Times had a significant article on the weekend that pointed out in good times, poetry sort of sits in the background, and it just hums along there. In troubled times, times that are challenging, poetry surges forth as people look to it for a variety of reasons. Rationales for the way things are, understanding, and also ways to incite the masses to, carry out their plans. And that's what's happening now. There's lots of poetry out there. It's all over the place, and it's also in Coburg. We had our Ecology Garden Earth Day ceremony on Saturday, and there were 3 lovely councillors down there. It was a very strong turnout for town council, and we're very happy about that. Thank you. And we have our poets, which we've brought from that day. Just a little bit of background. 29 youth poets from elementary schools were in our contest, and 14 replies from adults. This is the 6th time we've had the poetry contest for the Ecology Garden. And so I'm quite happy to... I can either read or not read a poem tonight. I came with the full intention of stepping away from the stage to allow our 6 readers, because you people are very busy people, for them to come up and read. So we're going to start off with the adults first. There was 2 second place winners. There wasn't a third place winner. So we're going to present the first of the second place winner, which is Reva Nelson.
Welcome.
Thank you, Ted. Hello, Mayor. I'm new to Coburg, so I'm very excited to find that it's such a thriving community for poetry. This was my poem in honor of Earth Day. Our Earth. 2-year-olds defy us so much of the time they are not concerned with the death knell's chime. Teenagers also position, pout, and strut. It's natural for them to challenge and headbutt. Tired parents, grandparents, the uninformed as well, will choose to believe what convenience does tell. Some challenge global warming, saying it can't be so, heaven knows all, science is the foe. And yet I implore you, if our lives to you matter, do not decide the warnings are idle chatter. The polar ice is melting, white bears are on the move, the temperature is rising, this we can prove. It isn't so difficult to do what's right, turn down the energy and join the fight. We can each do our part to change and be brave. Our blue sphere and each other is what we must save. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Can you, Reba, can you make sure we get a copy of that poem?
All right, I can do that.
Okay, thank you.
And now we'll have Linda Hutzel Manning.
Welcome, Linda. You're certainly no stranger to council or to poetry.
Thank you, thank you. I've written a Villanelle. A Villanelle is a very structured poem, 19 lines with lines that are repeated. And I wrote this first as a regular poem, and then I thought I'd challenge myself and see if I could write it as a Villanelle. So here, a Villanelle for Mother Earth. Try to love this tired earth and care. Oil spills, dead birds, demise of seas, bleak evidence is everywhere. Microbeads pollute, icebergs beyond repair, unexpected storms, young broken trees. Try to love this tired earth and care. We're surfeited with stuff, recycle what is spare. Bag roadside trash, sow garden milkweed seeds. Bleak evidence is everywhere. Corporate greed ignores the grinding wear. Slaves to schedule, we strive like droning bees. Try to love this tired earth and care. This silent war is neither just nor fair. We owe our children all that live in sun and breeze. Bleak evidence is everywhere. This earth had once such splendor, much to spare. Peril waits in shadow while we lean on ease. Bleak evidence is everywhere. Try to love this tired earth and care. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Very appropriate.
And now our first place, Marion Fusel.
Welcome, Marion.
Mayor Brochure and council members, thank you for having me here. I know it's sometimes very hard to balance, progress with environmental issues, but just for our children's sake, I feel that we at least need to begin the process, and our children can then take over from that. So appropriately, my poem is called "Who Will Save the Children?" What about the children playing in the streets? Will they gather flowers in the arms in endless fields? Will they harvest farmlands that nourish year to year? Will there be abundance of water, cool and clear? What happens when the birds no longer fly above, when we no longer hear their cries, their wonderful octaves? What happens when the spiders no longer weave their webs and bees no longer pollinate? All life will end instead. What happens when the earth becomes a barren place and every living creature in dry sand is encased? When fresh lakes salinate and fish cannot survive, who then will save the children? What prayer will save their lives?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And now our Coburg Elementary School students. Third place is George Neamy. He goes to Burnham Public School.
This is my poem about Earth Day, and guess I'll get started. Earth, it's a wonderful place, but sometimes it feels like a big case. So if you please join us for Earth Day. I know it doesn't look like a party, but hey, if we all do our part and help the earth from our hearts, this big case will look beautiful if we try, and then everyone that joins us will know why. They will help point us in the right direction, so then if you look in the right store section, you'll see we're not perfect and pollution we need to correct, but that's why we have Earth Day. So we need to stand up and say, hey, plant trees and plants so we get better and make things that we can celebrate together on our beautiful planet.
Very well done. You've put a lot of thought into a poem of that length, and we all appreciate it.
Second place is Logan Rochon from C.R. Gummo School.
Logan, I know C.R. Gummo is a French immersion school because both my grandchildren went there. Is this going to be in French or English?
It's English.
All good.
Earth Day. Beautiful trees, fresh air, song of bird, eco-friendly salad, and the lush soil. Earth Day.
And Micah Robson from C.R. Gummo School, she's our first place.
Okay.
Earth Day. Roses, grass, and trees, flowers and plants, butterflies and little bees, fresh air and nature, the grass and leaves. Earth Day.
Very good. Both with illustrations. I think, is that it, Ted? Yeah. Well, I just want to say on behalf of Council how pleased we are that, they had so many people, take you up on and writing a poem for Earth Day. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it down there, but I'm glad that some members of Council could. But, there's no doubt that I'm glad to see the message of, of saving the planet, of the importance of Earth and the water and the clean water and everything we have is getting out to not just adults but to the young children in our communities, because that's what's going to make the difference in the long run. So thank you all very much for, for taking part and promoting Earth Day. Thank you. Thanks, Ted.
Your Worship, at this time we have a proclamation by Councillor Segay regarding Poetry Day.
Do I have to say something now? No, I've said it all. I just go ahead and proclaim.
Okay, the deputy mayor is going to do that. Oh, I'm sorry. Councillor Segay is going to do that.
Thank you, Mayor Brockenier. Whereas National Poetry Month and World Poultry Day celebrate poetry, writing, and the contribution of poets and all writers to the identity and quality of life of our communities, and whereas these initiatives also celebrate libraries and the work of municipal leaders to promote literacy, reading, culture, and the arts, and whereas poetry reaffirms our common humanity by revealing to us that individuals everywhere share the same questions and feelings, and whereas poetry is a mainstay of oral tradition and over the centuries can communicate with the innermost values of diverse culture, and whereas thousands of organizations participate through readings, festivals, book displays, workshops, and other events, now therefore be it resolved that Mayor Brockenier and council members hereby proclaim the month of April 2017 as National Poetry Month in the town of Coburg.
Okay, we have a motion. I'm looking for a seconder. Councillor McCarthy, any discussion, any comments anyone would like to make about Poetry Month, or even some of the poems that were read to us today by the 6 individuals who were winners? Councillor Rowden.
Yes, Your Worship, and that makes me real proud of these young people that we have in the town of Coburg that are able to do these little poems, and especially the illustrations, because last Thursday night we had the privilege of being able to vote on quite a number of projects for safety and saving the environment at the Canarasca Conservation Authority. So it was nice to see the children participating in it. And I'm quite proud, too, to announce that as of today, because people were going to donate trees for my wife's celebration, we're up over 50 trees being donated so far. So I'm sure she'd be proud of that.
I'm sure she would, too, and we all know trees can save the planet. Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I'd also like to thank not only the parents that brought out the children and the poets who came Saturday morning at 6:18 a.m. for Earth Day, but that it was organized in such a meaningful and spiritual way. And I thank Jim Pickerskill for that, and Ted, our beloved poet, artist, ecologist Rick Beaver was there, sharing the sacred elements of cedar. And he also provided drumming and poetry song. And also Miriam wrote out prayers, writings about the environment. And in the end, they were all hung up at the Ecology Garden. It reminded me of Tibetan prayers that are hung up. So it was deeply moving for everybody who was there. So thank you so much, everybody.
Just to reaffirm what Councillor McCarthy said, I actually set my alarm and got up there that early, and it was a very spiritual feeling, watching these young people and the parents and the younger adults. We had such a wonderful time, and I wondered if, with your permission, I have some Coburg 150 pins. Would I be able to give them to the 6 individuals?
Absolutely.
Oh, wonderful.
Your Worship, at this time we have reports. The first under Economic Development Services. We have a memo from the Secretary, Coburg Economic Development Advisory Committee, recommending an appointment to the Downtown Coalition Advisory Committee.
Deputy Mayor Henderson.
The action recommended that Council endorse the recommendation of the Coburg Economic Development Advisory Committee and appoint Randy Curtis to the Downtown Coalition Advisory Committee as a representative from the Coburg Economic Development Advisory Committee.
Okay, seconder, Councillor Rowden. And at our last Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting, there was a fair amount of discussion about retail and retail development as well, along with the downtown. Randy Curtis expressed a lot of interest in it as we were having a discussion, and on that basis, because of his interest in retail, I recommended him as the representative on the Downtown Coalition, and he gladly accepted it. So, any discussion? All in favor? It's carried.
Your Worship, under General Government Services, we have the Committee of the Whole meeting notes.
Deputy Mayor Henderson.
Action recommended that Council receive the notes of the Committee of the Whole meeting held on April 17, 2017 for information purposes.
Okay, seconder, Councillor Darling. All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, as an addendum item, we have a memo from the Municipal Clerk, Manager of Legislative Services regarding the 2018 municipal election for the use of alternative voting methods, internet and telephone, in the 2018 Town of Coburg School Board and municipal elections, and to retain IntelliVote Systems, Inc. to provide internet and telephone electric voting services for the 2018 municipal election.
Deputy Mayor Henderson.
The action recommended the council authorize preparation of a bylaw to authorize the use of alternative voting methods, internet and telephone, in the 2018 Town of Coburg School Board and municipal elections, and further that council authorize preparation of a bylaw to authorize the mayor and municipal clerk to execute an agreement with IntelliVote Systems, Inc., building upon the successful integrated voting solution experience delivered during both the 2006, 2010, and 2014 municipal elections, and further that IntelliVote Systems, Inc. be retained to provide internet, telephone, electronic voting services for the 2018 Town of Coburg municipal election at a total cost of $39,200, based on an estimated 14,000 eligible electors, to be funded from the election reserve fund set aside annually for this purpose.
Okay, I'm looking for a seconder. Councillor Rowden. Any discussion? Deputy Mayor Henderson.
I'd just like to make a comment for the public, Your Worship.
Yes,
the reason for doing this bylaw tonight is because under the new Modernization Elections Act, all municipalities in Ontario have to declare by May 1st the system they wish to use in 2018 municipal elections. So the bylaw before us just represents something that Coburg has done very well through the clerk's office, and I want to be clear that the clerk's office will direct in 2018 the municipal elections. And for us, it has built a larger percentage of voters, and it has tremendous a number of advantages by going to this system. Thank you.
Ms. Brace, would you like to make a comment?
Just simply that the elections have been a total success. IntelliVote have been our provider throughout the process and the introduction. We are their pilot and their shining star, and it's been really positive for the town of Coburg. I just wanted to say that in the motion itself, it should say that it's an estimated cost of $39,000 because it depends on the number of electors at the very end. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? And I do believe this type of voting is actually saving us money from the former voting process we used before, where people could show up and vote at different polling stations throughout the community. Deputy Mayor Henderson.
And you're quite right, Your Worship. It's my understanding that now Port Hope is looking at the model we've used for the last few years, and they're considering themselves moving to some form, I believe, or considering some form of internet and telephone voting system.
Any other discussion on the Deputy Mayor or Councillor Darling? I'm getting confused tonight too.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just think it's important to let the public know that by the ease of voting by computer and whatnot, that our percentages from the early years in 2003 were around the 36%, and now we're up to 52% of voter turnout. And that makes a big difference when the whole community speaks. Now, there is room for improvement, and maybe next one we can get it up to 60 or 65%, but I think they should know that it is beneficial to the community as a whole. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Segay.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to note in reading through the notes that were provided to us that the seniors have really embraced this as well. And initially you would think that they would be a little hesitant, but obviously the numbers of voters coming out and voting and the percentages are higher. And the clerk has informed us that the seniors actually do love this new way of voting because they don't have to go anywhere. They can do it in the comfort of their homes. So kudos to the town and to the councils for embracing this.
Yes, it also helps with voting taking place in October. You can sometimes have some nasty weather, which kept people away from the voting polls, and or people didn't have a ride to the polls and so on. So now everyone can do it from the comfort of their home, either by phone or internet or even smartphones. So smartphones are starting to take over and actually replacing computers for some people. So now you could use your smartphone to access the electronic voting and vote that way as well. Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, Worship. And if I also understand correctly, you could be away on a trip and vote. So I think that's adding to voter turnout as well. Thank you.
Well, that's another one of the expenses that we've eliminated is the early voting polls as well. So you no longer have to worry about voting early. When you can, as long as you can access the internet, you can vote regardless of where you are in the world. Okay, any other discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, we now have the motions, the first being under General Government Services.
Okay, Mayor Henderson.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McCarthy. Whereas the Committee of the Whole has considered an offer to purchase municipal-owned land located in the Lucas Point Business and Industrial Park from 1317895 Ontario Inc. and/or Vancouver. Now therefore be resolved that Council approve acceptance of an offer received the purchase of 1.5 acres of land by 1317895 Ontario Inc. Vancouver, and further that Council authorize the acceptance of an offer of right of first refusal on an adjacent 1.3 acre parcel, anticipation of future growth of the business, noting that both parcels lie on the southeast corner of Thompson Street and Dodge Street, Coburg, located within the municipality-owned Lucas Point Business and Industrial Park.
Moved and seconded. Discussion, Councillor Segay first, and then Councillor Darling. No, it was already seconded. Okay, Councillor Darling.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to point out that by us promoting the sale of this land and having another business come into town, we are also doing what we've put in our strategic plan is try to create employment. And this project, if it goes the way the owner suspects it will, there will be a few jobs, and then if he grows his business as expected, there will be even more jobs. I think that's another plus for the town of Coburg.
Yes, there's no doubt he's going to start off with 15 new jobs in the town of Coburg, and he was when he spoke with council in closed session, he was very optimistic that the forecast from the people who are in the business said that he's better be prepared to double his size within a year because the product will be so much in demand.
Let's hope they're right.
Yeah. Further discussion. All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, we have a motion under Parks and Recreation Services.
Okay, Councillor Darling.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a motion here moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McCarthy. Whereas the Committee of the Whole has considered a memo from the Marina Manager regarding the barrier-free washroom renovation project, Coburg Marina. Now therefore be it resolved that Council authorize up to $65,054 as a capital expenditure for the construction of 2 barrier-free washrooms to be located at the Coburg Marina Administration Building, including relocation of an existing fish cleaning station. And further, that the project will be funded from the 2017 capital budget in the Federal Enabling Accessibility Fund Community Accessibility Stream Grant.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Any discussion on this? Deputy Mayor Henderson.
Through Your Worship, to Councillor Darling, do you expect this could or might be ready by July 1st?
I absolutely do. I think the contract reads that it must be ready by June 30th, if I'm not mistaken. So, and I know the contractor, so I'll make sure I put a burr on them that it's done.
Well, I believe Waterfront Festival this year is June 30th, July 1st, and July 2nd, so it would be appropriate to have it ready for June the 30th. I would agree. Any other discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, we have 2 motions under Public Works Services.
Okay. Councillor Rowden.
Yes, Your Worship, and the first motion is whereas the Committee of the Whole has considered a memo from the Director of Public Works regarding the approval of transit bus number 905 and 906 refurbishment. Now therefore it be resolved that Council approve the quotation of $18,595.54 plus HST which includes the additional cost of the $1,250 to Century Transportation to undertake the work in Port Hope, submitted by Winslow Germany Motors Limited for the supply and repair work of the new transmission for bus number 906 and be funded from the Equipment Replacement Reserve, and further the Council approve the quotation of $9,439.40 plus HST submitted by Century Transportation to rebuild the motor in bus 905, the wheels bus, to be funded from the Equipment Replacement Reserve as well. And Your Worship, we spoke about this last week, and it's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McCartney.
Well, and it's a very good motion. I did talk to it last week. It bears repeating, though. I think that, you know, when we were looking at purchasing buses back around 2008, we wanted to buy the buses that had a long lifespan of about 15 years. And in order to do that, you have to buy a bus that's got a heavy-duty frame. And the frame actually outlasts the motor and transmission. So we knew back when we bought those buses, that halfway through the life of the bus, we would have to replace the transmission and motor. But very, very cheap to get another 8 years out of the buses. And so I think it was an excellent strategy by the staff of the day, as well as supported by council. So I just wanted to add that. Any other discussion? All in favor? Carried.
And Your Worship, the next motion is moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McCartney. Whereas the Committee of the Whole has considered a memo from the Director of Public Works regarding the awarding of Hardin Street Bridge Rehabilitation Tender Contract number CO-17-03. Now therefore it be resolved that Council approve the low bid of $324,836.65 plus HST as submitted by Baltimore Development Services Limited for the rehabilitation of the Hardin Street Bridge Project, Coburg, and further that Council approve $49,600 from the James Street East 2017 Public Works Capital Budget to be reallocated to the Hardin Street Bridge Project, and that $10,475.94 be debentured to provide additional funding for the project, and further that the Director of Public Works be authorized to amend the scope of work to reduce costs if feasible, as permitted under Section 12 of the form of the tender document. And Your Worship, this is a bridge that had done some Band-Aid work on it a couple of years ago, and of course it's got to the state where it needs some repair on both ends of the bridge. And in that street, we got to let the public know that it will be closed down, and it'll be rerouted and detoured people that live in the area around by Sinclair Street as soon as the contract starts. So, and I believe that's not very far away.
Okay. Any discussion on this? All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, we have a motion under Protection Services.
Okay. Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you. I'll place the motion first. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Forrest Rowden. Whereas the Committee of the Whole has considered a memo from the Chief Building Official in response to a request from the East Northumberland Architectural Conservancy, Ontario, for an exemption to sign bylaw number 008-2009. Now therefore be it resolved that Council endorse the recommendation of the Coburg Heritage Advisory Committee and grant the request from Architectural Conservancy, Ontario, ACO, Coburg, and East Northumberland for an exemption to sign bylaw 008-2009 as amended to erect approximately 200 lawn signs in recognition of building dating back from 1867 in the town of Coburg as part of the Canada 150th anniversary celebrations for a duration of 15 weeks, subject to the finalization of details by building department staff and the issuance of a signed permit.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Comments? Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, Your Worship. I spoke of this last week, but for those who weren't able to listen in on our Committee of the Whole proceedings, you will be able to witness these signs throughout town on probably mainly private properties, which is why the sign exemption needed to be passed this evening. And the sign will allow you to know that that building was present in 1867. In other words, when it was the formation of Canada. But also there will be a QR code where you can, if you have a mobile or a smartphone, you can place it up against the sign, and information will be provided on that particular piece of property. And this is using our GIS technology. So it's going to be a really interesting project, and I invite Coburg citizens, when the announcement comes that this project is up and running, to take time throughout the 15 weeks and visit the neighborhoods and learn something about our heritage. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Rowden.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor McCartney, do you know approximately how many places are going to be signed?
Well, they're asking for approximately 200 lawn signs. Now, I'm not sure if that means that there's backup replacement ones or there's 200 identified property, but there will be quite a few.
Yes. I don't think anyone's going to go out and count the exact number, but I think that gives them enough to work with. Very great. It's a good project for our 150th. Further discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, we have two motions under Planning and Development Services.
Okay. Councillor Burkhardt.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Darling. Whereas the Committee of the Whole has considered a memo from the Secretary Coburg Heritage Advisory Committee regarding a heritage permit application to remove and replace exterior siding and windows on property located at 18 King Street East, Coburg. Now therefore it be resolved that Council endorse the recommendation of the Coburg Heritage Advisory Committee and grant heritage permit number HP-2017-007 to remove the insul brick cladding, to remove frame and cover the two smallest windows, to remove and replace two larger windows with new vinyl windows of the same dimensions, and to install a vinyl vertical board and batten style cladding on the facade of on property located at 18 King Street East, Coburg, subject to finalization of details by planning staff.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Discussion. Councillor Burkhardt.
I would just like to give a little bit of an update. Staff are actually looking into alternative cladding material, specifically a wood type, and seeing if they can, they're in discussions with the contractor as well as the owner to see if they will put that in instead, as well as they're trying to realign the windows vertically and horizontally so they kind of line up. So I just want to add that. And I wasn't too sure if this was, I'm looking for, I guess, clarity, if at this point we would remove the vinyl portion of.
I would think that the motion would have to be more general, and as we sometimes do, say subject to approval by staff, rather than identify it as vinyl and then come back and have to change it. So I think we should make an amendment to that, maybe remove some of the specific references, Councillor Burkhardt, and just stroke them out and read it again. I think would be a good thing to do.
Okay. So I'll read the second part. Now therefore it be resolved that Council endorse the recommendation of the Coburg Heritage Advisory Committee and grant heritage permit number HP-2017-007 to remove the insul brick cladding, to remove frame and cover the two smallest windows, to remove and replace the two large windows with new vinyl windows of the same dimensions, and to install vertical board and batten style cladding on the face of property located at 18 King Street East, Coburg, subject to the finalization of details by planning staff.
Okay. I think that's a better motion. And does the seconder agree with that? Yes, okay. Further discussion? All in favor? It's carried.
My second motion tonight is, whereas the committee, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Darling, whereas the Committee of the Whole considered application to fill one vacancy position on the Coburg Heritage Advisory Committee, now therefore it be resolved that Council appoint Brian McMillan as a member of the Coburg Heritage Advisory Committee.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, we have a motion from Community Services, and there is a slight amendment to it.
Okay. Councillor Segay.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Burkett. Whereas the Committee of the Whole has considered a memo from the Community Events Coordinator regarding approval of the municipal event application Touch Rugby Coburg Beach Tournament submitted by the Coburg Rugby Club, now therefore be it resolved that Council approve the Touch Rugby Tournament to be held on Saturday, August the 13th, 2017 on Victoria Beach in Coburg. The amendment is initially this was May the 13th. That's the only amendment, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you for that. Discussion? That's the weekend after I believe it's the weekend after the Sandcastle Festival, is it not?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, we now have the reading of the bylaws.
Deputy Mayor Henderson.
Your Worship and members of Council, there are 10 bylaws for presentation, namely a bylaw to authorize the use of alternative voting methods, internet and telephone in the 2018 Town of Coburg School Board and Municipal Elections, a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with IntelliVote Systems, Inc. for alternative voting systems, a bylaw to amend bylaw number 40-2015, being a bylaw to establish delegation of powers and duties for the purpose of temporary closing highways to issue special events permits to include granting of specific noise exemptions on behalf of the Town of Coburg, a bylaw to exempt blocks 89, 91, and 92, Plan 30M-876, Wilkins Gate, Coburg, West Park Village, Phase 4D. A bylaw to authorize the Mayor and Municipal Clerk to execute a development agreement with Naren Holdings, Inc. and Lakefront Utility Services, Inc. for a new commercial development at 436 King Street East, Coburg. A bylaw to authorize the removal of the holding H symbol from the property known as 436 King Street East, Coburg. A bylaw to authorize the Mayor and Municipal Clerk to execute a development agreement with Crystal Gardens Development, Inc. and Lakefront Utilities, Inc. for residential development at 680 Ontario Street, Coburg. A bylaw to authorize the removal of a holding H symbol from the property known as 680 Ontario Street, Coburg. A bylaw to authorize the Mayor and Municipal Clerk to execute an amending development agreement with EHCS, Inc. and Lakefront Utility Services, Inc. to permit the proposed residential development at 82 and 86 Monroe Street, Coburg. A bylaw to authorize the removal of the holding H symbol from property located at 82 and 86 Monroe Street, Coburg. And Your Worship, I move that these be given first reading to these bylaws.
Okay. Seconder, Councillor Burkett. All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, I move that Council go into Committee of the Whole to regular Council for the second reading of these bylaws.
Seconder, Councillor Burkett again. All in favor? Carried.
A bylaw to authorize the use of alternative voting methods, internet, telephone, in the 2018 Town of Coburg School Board and Municipal Elections. I move for second reading.
Okay, we've already had the discussion. All in favor of the second reading? Carried.
A bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with IntelliVote Systems, Inc. for alternative voting systems. I move for second reading.
Okay, all in favor of the second reading? Carried. And Councillor McCarthy. Delegation of powers.
Sorry, I was moving ahead on the other ones. This is a bylaw to amend bylaw number 040-2015, being a bylaw to establish delegation of powers and duties for the purpose of temporary closing highways to issue special events permits to include granting of specific noise exemptions on behalf of the town of Coburg.
Okay, that's the second reading. So all in favor? Carried. Next is Councillor Burkett.
A bylaw to exempt blocks 89, 91, and 92, Plan 30M-876, Wilkins Gate, Coburg, West Park Village, Phase 4D. I move this for second reading.
Okay. All in favor of the second reading? Carried.
A bylaw to authorize the mayor and municipal clerk to execute a development agreement with Nairn Holdings, Inc. and Lakefront Utility Services, Inc. for a new commercial development at 436 King Street East, Coburg. I move this for second reading.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Burkett. Could you just tell people at home are watching what the development is?
So this is a dental office just located beside the church at the east end. So he's purchased the property and he would like to put his practice there because it will then allow him to be more accessible.
Very good. All in favor? Carried.
A bylaw to authorize the removal of holding H symbol from property known as 436 King Street East, Coburg. I move this for second reading.
Okay. All in favor? Carried.
A bylaw to authorize the mayor and municipal clerk to execute a development agreement with Crystal Gardens Development Inc. and Lakefront Utilities Inc. for a residential development at 680 Ontario Street, Coburg. I move this for second reading.
Okay, and this is very exciting news for a second reason. It's going to put 22 rental homes on the market in the town of Coburg, and very much needed. As I've said before, we've got a vacancy rate for rental property in the town of Coburg of 0.4 of 1%. So this is a welcome addition, and the Director McGlashan went through the site plan for us last week, and I think it's very, very acceptable. Any discussion, Councillor McCarthy?
Thank you, Worship. Through you, through Councillor Burkett or Director McGlashan, I received an inquiry from the public about the fact that that this came forward again, having been considered a year ago, and there was concern it had changed. But I think, if I understand, if you could explain the difference between site plan approval and development agreement for the public. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor McCarthy. Approximately a year and a half ago, the development proposal that came forward to council was a rezoning, which was to allow the land use to occur. Site plan agreement and a development agreement are actually one and the same. So that is the latter process prior to actually building permits being released. So there was a multi-step process that at first involved the land use changes through a rezoning, and that is implemented through the site plan approval process, a development agreement, removal of the holding symbol, and then a building permit.
Okay. Further discussion? All in favor of the second reading, and is carried.
A bylaw to authorize the removal of the holding H symbol from property known as 680 Ontario Street, Coburg. I move this for second reading.
Okay, and that's the development that they're talking about. All in favor? Carried.
A bylaw to authorize the mayor and municipal clerk to execute an amending development agreement with EHCS Inc. and Lakefront Utility Services Inc. to permit the proposed residential development at 82 and 86 Monroe Street, Coburg. I move this for second reading.
Okay, and again, more good news for rental property in the town of Coburg. There's, because this involves 2 units. One will be the affordable housing project that is supported by the county. There'll be 31 units of affordable housing, and the target group will be seniors, because that's what their statistics show is where the need is. The other one will be 35 units, rental units at market rate. But all in all, we're talking about 66 more units in the town of Coburg that'll be rental properties. So very, very exciting news. Any discussion on the second reading? All in favor? Carried.
That the committee rise.
Oh, we got one more.
One more? I'm jumping ahead. I apologize.
Yes, one last one.
A bylaw to authorize removal of the holding H symbol from property known as 82 and 86 Monroe Street, Coburg. I move this for second reading.
Okay. All in favor of the second reading? Carried.
I apologize, Councillor Burkett. The committee rise.
All in favor? Carried.
A bylaw to authorize the use of alternative voting methods, internet, and telephone, the 2018 Town of Coburg School Board of Municipal Elections. A bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with IntelliVote Systems, Inc. for alternative voting systems. A bylaw to amend bylaw number 40-2015, being a bylaw to establish delegation of powers and duties for the purpose of temporarily closing highways to issue special events permits to include granting of specific noise exemptions on behalf of the town of Coburg. A bylaw to accept blocks 89, 91, and 92, Plan 30M-876, Wilkins Gate, Coburg, West Park Village, Phase 4D. A bylaw to authorize the mayor and municipal clerk to execute a development agreement with Naran Holdings, Inc. and Lakefront Utility Services, Inc. for a new commercial development at 436 King Street East, Coburg. A bylaw to authorize the removal of the holding H symbol from the property known as 436 King Street East, Coburg. A bylaw to authorize the mayor and municipal clerk to execute a development agreement with Crystal Gardens Development, Inc. and Lakefront Utilities, Inc. for a residential development at 680 Ontario Street, Coburg. A bylaw to authorize the removal of a holding H symbol from the property known as 680 Ontario Street, Coburg. A bylaw to authorize the mayor and municipal clerk to execute an amending development agreement with EHCS, Inc. and Lakefront Utility Services, Inc. to permit the proposed residential development at 82 and 86 Monroe Street, Coburg. A bylaw to authorize the removal of the holding H symbol from the property known as 82 and 86 Monroe Street, Coburg. Your Worship, these bylaws have received both first and second readings without amendment. I move third reading of these bylaws that they finally be passed and ordered signed by the mayor and municipal clerk with the corporate seal affixed.
Okay, seconder, Councillor Burkett. All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, under correspondence, we have a letter from the Canadian Student Debating Federation dated March 27, 2017, requesting waiver of rental fees for the courtroom to host the annual National Student Debating Seminar on Friday, October the 13th, 2017, and the action recommended should have been completed, that Council refer the matter to staff for report.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Henderson.
Yes, Your Worship, I'd ask that the Council refer this to a report from staff, and I would hope, if possible, it could come back perhaps by the end of June, if that's possible.
Okay. Seconder, Councillor Burkett. Further discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, we now have the Council Coordinator announcements.
Okay. Yeah, mine will be fairly brief because we've already talked about the new business that's coming to town in Lucas Point. We've just sold 1.5 acres to the new business, and as I said, he's very optimistic that it's going to grow quite quickly. We also have a new restaurant in downtown Coburg. It's a it's a sushi restaurant that has relocated from the Darcy Street area, just south of the railroad tracks on Darcy Street, to downtown Coburg. And so that will fill another vacant store in downtown Coburg. The CAO is working on a very creative economic development initiative that he certainly shared with me, and I would encourage all members of council to make an appointment to drop in and see the CAO so that he can go over it with you as well and get a little bit of feedback from members of council while he's writing the report. There is a breakfast for the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus in Ottawa Monday morning, and unfortunately the warden of Northumberland County, Mark Wallace, is away. He asked me to fill in, and I'm not going to be able to fill in either, but Jennifer Moore, the CAO, will be there because they are pushing forward the agenda for the Eastern Ontario Warden Caucus, which certainly affects us because we are still, working on the infrastructure debt, and we want to make all the members of Parliament in all of Eastern Ontario aware of that debt we're facing. We're also working on the cell gap, which is the cell phone gap. When as you're driving around the country, there are many spots where you cannot get a connection, and this is very, very important to our first responders. So that's on the agenda for the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus this year as well, along with some economic development initiatives. So that will all be presented to the members of Parliament Monday morning in Ottawa. So and I have every confidence that Jennifer Moore will represent Northumberland County very well. And that's my report. Deputy Mayor Henderson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have 3 items. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizers for the empty bowls that was held at Rosewood. It was a wonderful evening, and of course the money goes for a very worthwhile cause and assisting the community. I also like to give my accolades for Earth Day. Yes, I was part with Councillor Segay and Councillor McCarthy. But again, I'd like to give just thanks not only to the students, but again to Wally Keeler, James Pickersgill, and Ted Amston. And lastly, to let Council know, we are meeting on the development charges background study. We're going towards our second of our 3rd meetings that are scheduled. And I want Council to know the ultimate goal is that I would like us to come back to this Council for a final decision with support of Mr. Davey and the CEO by June 27th, because we have set a deadline of July 1st to meet the alignment of what's expected of us. So I just want you to know we're at this point right on schedule. That's my report.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Henderson. And Councillor Darling.
Thank you, Your Worship. As everybody's aware, it's that time of year again, excuse me, where things are picking up in the parks. We have the Urban Forest Open House Wednesday, April 26th. The open house is from 4 to 5. Excuse me. Presentation workshop from 5 to 7. The Waterfront Users Needs Assessment and Detailed Design, May 10th, is an interactive open public house at the Community Center. 2 sessions, session 1 to 4, pardon me, session 1, 4 to 6, session 2, 7 to 9. We got the greenhouse opening up on May 13th with the open house, 9 to 12. The Recreation Department events at the CCC. The ice has been taken out from the bowl over the weekend to prepare for some of the events, including the home show April 29th and 30th, and the Ontario Hooking Craft Guild Convention April 29th to 30th. And we have over 260 registered participants for that event. And a highlight I just found out today, Ashley Haynes, the CCC's events coordinator, was invited by the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport to sit on a panel for the annual Sports Symposium, also on April 29th, to discuss games hosting. The Sports Symposium is held each year for Ontario's amateur sport sector to discuss best practices, share ideas, and generate good discussions. And I think this is very important with the number of events we've had. It's obvious that the ministry has recognized her professionalism, so to have a staff member like that is quite an asset. Preparations for the RBC Cup are very well underway. And the Kodiaks play their first game here May 28th. Coburg 55 ranked pickleball tournament again is June 10th and 11th. So there's lots going on at the CCC. The waterfront operations for the marina and area, the first lift-in day was this past Saturday. If anybody's been down around, they'll realize that the harbor dredging operations have begun and are expected to be about 4 weeks long. And we've got refuse and recycling bins placed on the walkways after a successful year last year in recycling. We've had lots of comments on that. And that is my report.
Thank you, Councillor Darling. Deputy Mayor Henderson, comment, question?
Thank you, Worship. Just I'd like to thank both Councillor Darling and Director Huswick with the waterfront meeting, because the question was raised, what about working individuals? And I was really pleased to read that you're having 2 sessions, so that certainly addresses any concern. And thank you to you and Think Design for going the extra distance.
You're more than welcome, sir.
Okay. Councillor Rowden.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I've got not a lengthy one tonight, but it's more than just a couple of pieces. First of all, the James Street construction project is scheduled to go ahead in early May. The contractor has signed a work schedule on it, and it will likely take 2.5 months to complete that street. So just so that people will know, some of the construction signs went up on last week on Division Street, letting people know that yes, there's going to be construction in the area. The tender for the new energy efficient aeration blowers for plant number 1, it closes on Tuesday, May the 16th. So those are energy efficient motors that are being installed in there. And the annual line painting program has begun. Contractor starting with a bicycle contour lane at the Paul Crowley Way, and all line painting downtown and along the waterfront is to be completed before Canada Day. So, and I believe that they get started on the contour lane today, and it's all set up to go. So, an open house for the new joint operations facility is scheduled for Building 7, and it's on Thursday, May the 11th, so mark your book. The morning is reserved for council and staff tours, and the afternoon is open to the public to come to building number 7 and see our new facility. I'd like to give you a little bit of history on the harbor that's coming up. It's going to be the museum opening on the 24th of May weekend, the holiday weekend, and that's one of the things that they're going to be displaying this year, a lot of the harbor, of the history of the harbor, plus some of the industry that was in the town of Coburg at one time. And George Parker is going to have his little railway set up again, so everybody's welcome to come. And they're also having their AGM on Wednesday night, the 26th, here at the Citizens Room. And if anybody's interested, public or council would like to even volunteer a few hours this summer to not only go in and direct people around the place, but learn some of the history of the area. It's really, I was blown away at just how much I learned in the last couple of years and volunteering for 3 or 4 hours on a Saturday. That it's just amazing where we went in this town from back in 1800 to now. And on yesterday, Sunday morning, George Parker organized a walk at to show some of the history of that railroad that went from here to Harwood and across the lake. And we went out and walked the old railroad berm from Dale Road down to Danforth. Got permission from the landowners. It was quite a challenge. Most of us were senior citizens. Anyways, it was a good thing, because I think at some point in time Hamilton Township's going to try and open up a trail system that will follow that route that the early settlers took way back when. On Wednesday the 26th at noon, I thought maybe the mayor might have mentioned this, but you may have missed it. The new building of the United Way is opening, and it's on Swain Street, and I believe it's at 12:30 is the ribbon cutting. So then that's my report, Your Worship.
Okay. And as far as the harbor history goes, the Sift and Cook have put together a virtual presentation on the history of the harbor. Councillor Segay and I attended last week. I guess it was kind of a preview of that whole virtual presentation. We only saw about a quarter of it, if that much. But there is a website, and I don't have my brochure. You may have it, and maybe through your report tonight. If you have it, you could you could give people the website that they could go to. Thank you. Okay. Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, Worship. I'd also like to say thanks to the Waterfront User Needs and Design Project for the two parts because of accessibility for transit for those who can come from 4 to 6. That means a great deal to them. I don't have a lot to say other than last week it was a really big week for Coburg Police Services. We had 3 constables sworn in, and Deputy Mayor Henderson represented council. It was a very meaningful ceremony in courtroom 4, and family were present, and we now have on as uniformed officers Sean LaBelle, Cameron Watson, Lito Peregrino. And later that night, the other major event for police services was the recognition dinner. And this is where long service is recognized, as well as retiring staff. And council was present that night. And it is a meaningful ceremony for many reasons. And there's 2 highlights I'd like to share. One is that Chief Kailu made a special effort to reach out to Alderville First Nations in the spirit of Canada 150 and the sesquicentennial, to invite the chief, Bob Marsden, the traditional drummers and dancers, and it was a really, really beautiful presentation for all guests that were present. And there was a sharing of the sacred element of tobacco. Yes, tobacco in a room, because it's a sacred element. So that was wonderful. And the other aspect that I want the public to know about is that this recognition dinner begins with a toast to the empty table. And it is to recognize fallen members of the service. And of course, every year, Chris Garrett is recognized. And it's a somber moment, and we never, never forget. I do want to share that our Staff Sergeant Peter McLean has retired, as well as long-serving Nancy Saunders, Sergeant Nancy Saunders. Peter McLean, of course, is beginning as bylaw enforcement for the town of Coburg, which is a wonderful addition to bylaw enforcement down at the waterfront this summer. Also, tenure pen was Jamie Bagali. I hope I pronounced that, and you may remember, and I do remember Jamie, because I was working for the DBIA then. This is the very tall, uniformed police officer. You can't miss him, and he's so good-natured about that. He's just a lovely man. Mark Bellamere, 15-year service. Robin Tenno, 25-year service. And Cindy Reeves, 20-year service. So it was a wonderful evening. The only other piece I'd like to share is that emergency planner Catherine, I want to say Chapman, it is Chapman, right? Yes, did present to the members of the Accessibility Committee on preparing a rapid getaway kit for persons with special needs, and it really was timely because we don't put our minds in that place where we say to ourselves, if I got a knock on the door and had to vacate in 20 minutes, am I ready? And it was very, very thought-provoking, and the committee members are very motivated now to do that and spread that information in their respective disability groups. My final comment is a story. A year ago, my picture was in the paper serving coffee, And my sister, who lives in Peterborough, got this worried phone call from someone at Coburg that maybe I was in trouble financially because I was working at McDonald's serving coffee. And I said, well, yes, you don't make a lot when you're on council, but in fact, it was Make Happy Day. And that's next Wednesday, and I'm sure most of council will be helping out with the celebrity hosting, and the money goes towards Camp Kids. So hopefully the public will make a point of visiting on May 3rd. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Councillor McCarthy. Unfortunately, many of us will be heading up to Collingwood for the OSUM conference. This is the first time I haven't been able to work McHappy Day in about 8 years, so sorry to miss it. Councillor Burkett.
So we had the first intake of applications for the Downtown Coburg Vitalization CIP closed on Thursday, April 13th. There were 6 applicants received in this round. The review committee met on Thursday, April 20th to evaluate the submissions. A recommendation on the allocation of the funds is expected to come back on May 8th to the Committee of the Whole for consideration. I also have another item. I attended a contractor's breakfast, and at that, wasn't too sure what it was all about initially, but a program from the county actually launched called Renovate Northumberland, and they actually launched this in conjunction with Habitat for Humanity, where they have a Renew It program. So this is for low to moderate income homeowners who either need repairs or accessibility upgrades, can now submit to one of these 2 programs. So there's examples are safety, health and safety related projects, repair projects such as like mold and electrical systems, accessibility, obviously ramps, handrails, those kind of things, structural related things, foundations, floors, ceilings, roofs, energy efficiencies like furnaces, window replacement. So it's quite a good program. So I'd just like to say, if anyone would like to contact or get in for more information, you can contact the County of Northumberland, the Community Social Services, at extension 226 or 86, or you can contact the Habitat for Humanity extension 27 for them. Okay, that's my report.
Thank you, Councillor Burkett. You're right. And I see this program getting a lot of uptake. It's something that's going to be very, very valuable to a number of homeowners who need that, that little extra in order to make their homes more accessible, or just upgrade them to, a better living standard. Councillor Segay.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's been a busy few weeks since we last gave our report. And mainly with Canada 150, lots of new banners going up, and there's a new 8-page event brochure that's being published. I think initially only 1,000 copies, but it is for all the people that may be not on internet or social media. But it explains many of the key events that were taking place this year, which is exciting. We're going to see an awful lot of different advertising coming up for Canada Week events, including the Confederation Tea, which I'm really looking forward to. I'm hoping to get my daughters down from Toronto. Big hats, long dresses, lots of fun things there, all in teacups. I think we get to bring home a teacup. Posters for Coburg Tartan Day, which we're looking forward to, 150 Day, Time Capsule, Old-Fashioned Family Picnic, and Music for the Park. If anybody says there's nothing going on this year, they're in a cave somewhere, because there's a tremendous amount of stuff. Canada Day parade applications are available at the CCC, so contact the events coordinator there. And I mentioned the Time Capsule, also movies on the beach. And the street pianos. Judging is taking place this Thursday. I've been asked to be a street piano judge. It doesn't get much better than that. I'm looking forward to that. And Santa Claus Parade, we met last week, and it is going to be taking place on November the 19th, and the committee will be presenting to Committee of the Whole on the 8th of May with all the details. It was an excellent meeting. We had a lot of back and forth and with local groups, and there's a lot of excitement and passion to keep this parade going. You mentioned the history of the harbor. Stanley Isherwood did a fabulous job. I'm amazed, the man can go from video to PowerPoint back and forth even when the internet failed and he had to, some guy with a smartphone came up and everything was running up and going. And if you really want to learn a lot about the Coburg Harbor, it's virtualmuseum.ca, and you'll see a link on there for Coburg. And I can also send anyone that wants the actual link to the site. Actually, John Draper has it on his blog as well. And so if you follow John, it's on there, and he's done an excellent job talking about it. Fabulous job, and I was just so excited about all the different tidbits about the harbor. It's amazing. Of course, love history, and we're finding out an awful lot about the history of this town. A couple things. The BIA, the spring passport program runs until the end of April, so if you haven't yet gone up and down downtown, really, really good response there. And the Art Gallery of Northumberland, the rug hooking, Councillor Darling, you mentioned the rug hooking coming to the CCC. They had over 90 visitors just this past weekend just to look at those rug hooks. It's just amazing. If you haven't been in there yet, they're fascinating. And the Art Gallery is trying to reinvent itself, and they've hired Laraday management consultants from Peterborough. They're now conducting focus groups and town hall meetings throughout Northumberland to ask people about what they think about the gallery, how to improve it, and just opinions to help them shape the future of the gallery. So hopefully that will inspire people to, I guess, for the gallery to reinvent themselves, because it's been difficult the last few years, and I think that they got some Trillium grant for this, and I'm hoping that it'll really turn things around. That's my report. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Seguin. Councillor McCarthy, a comment?
Just to add as well, the one of the Canada 150 events this weekend is the Vintage Film Festival is showing Canadian films at the Loft all day Saturday and Sunday, and it's free, folks. So if you get an hour off, you go from 10 to noon, 1 to 3, 4 to 6, and 7 to 9, and so there's 8 films. And you can find out by going, if you go to the Loft website, they received a grant for this one as well, so it's going to be great.
Okay, Councillor Seguin.
Just one thing I forgot. There's an MS Walk on April 30th. It's a new event for the town of Coburg, so anyone that has had MS, it's certainly a disease that really, really challenges people. So hopefully there will be some people coming and walking, and it's actually a fairly decent walk. It starts at the CCI, and it's just a 5K, and so they're hoping to have a decent turnout this year.
Okay, Councillor Rowden.
Yes, Your Worship, and
we're going to go around the horn again.
A couple of dates that were specified for the urban forest management plan, and I think I had marked down the 25th, but I understand that was changed to the 26th. Maybe we could ask our director at the CC Center.
Director Husbeck, it's still in my calendar as tomorrow.
And I thought it was changed to the 26th.
Okay, Councillor Burkett?
I actually phoned her today, and it is the 25th still. That's for council and advisory committees, is my understand. Yes, tomorrow.
Okay. Councillor McCarthy?
It's the 26th is the public meeting, because yes. I'm going to go to that thing.
Okay. Ms. Brace, I believe.
It's the adjournment. There are no closed sessions for this evening.
Okay. Take a motion to adjourn. Councillor Burkett had his hand up first.